My husband helped his childhood friend through her dad's cancer battle. She repaid him by confessing she was in love with him at 1 a.m. He shut it down immediately, but then his mom got involved. I, 31 female, have been married to my husband, 32 male, a doctor, for almost 4 years. We live in the Northeast and have built a life that up until recently I was proud of. Low drama, mutual respect, strong communication. He's the kind of guy who works 12-hour shifts and still comes home and asks me how I'm doing. His patients adore him. His friends rely on him. And his family, well, let's just say they used to think I was the problem before this. Now they're certain of it. My husband is the kind of person people turn to in a crisis, especially when it's health-related. He never plays God, but he'll answer questions, offer guidance, and sometimes even help get a second opinion or connect people to specialists. That's always been fine with me. Actually, I've always admired that about him. He's compassionate and brilliant. It's one of the reasons I fell for him. So when his childhood friend Lena, 32, female, reached out a few months ago about her father's cancer diagnosis, neither of us thought twice about it. He grew up with her. Their families were basically intertwined. Think shared holidays, overlapping vacations. My mom is also your second mom type of thing. Lena and I weren't particularly close, but I'd met her several times and always thought she was nice. Polished. The kind of Southern woman who bakes cookies when she's sad and always wears lipstick, even to the grocery store. She was married when I met her, with 2 kids and a minivan. We live across the country from each other, and I never saw her as anything other than a family friend. But when her dad got sick, late-stage, aggressive cancer, my husband stepped in to help. He read reports, consulted with oncologists in our area, and helped coordinate with her local care team. He even took a few late-night calls when she was panicking over test results or new symptoms. At first, it was understandable. I've been through a serious illness myself, more on that later, so I know how overwhelming and isolating it is. I felt for her. But slowly, things started to shift. Her messages went from "thank you so much for helping us" to "I don't know what I'd do without you." Then to "you're such a blessing. I think God put you in my life for a reason." Okay, that's fine. Maybe a little intense, but she was going through something traumatic. I brushed it off. Until last weekend. My husband woke up early. He's an early riser on Sundays, and when he checked his phone, he froze. I was still half asleep when he turned to me and said, "You need to read this." Lena had sent a series of messages overnight, and I mean overnight. They started around 1:14 a.m. The first one, "I can't keep pretending, I'm in love with you." Then, "I know this sounds crazy, but I think God brought us back together for a reason." And finally, "Please don't tell her, I just had to say it. I know you feel it too." I sat up so fast I got dizzy. My first reaction wasn't even anger, it was shock, like my brain couldn't quite compute what I was reading. Before I could say a word, my husband said, "I'm blocking her. I'm sorry, I didn't expect this. I'm handling it." And he did. He messaged her back, not angrily, but clearly. He told her the messages were inappropriate, that she needed therapy, not emotional entanglement with someone else's husband, and that he would no longer be involved in her father's care or anything else. Then he blocked her number. And that should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. Because 2 days later, we got a call from his mother, and everything went to hell. Update 1. Let me rewind a bit. Lena wasn't just some girl from my husband's past. She was practically his shadow growing up. Their parents were best friends. They lived a few houses apart, carpooled to school, spent holidays together. She was the girl next door, in the most literal sense. I used to joke that she was the female version of him, right down to the competitive spelling bee trophies and weird obsession with Mythbusters. But what I didn't realize was that, while he outgrew the shared childhood, Lena never really did. She's always had this subtle possessiveness about him, like he wasn't her boyfriend, but he was hers in some vague territorial way. When we got married, she sent us a lovely gift and a very polite message about how happy she was for us, but never once called me by name. It was always "your wife" or "the missus" in her emails and texts. At the time, I brushed it off. I'm not a jealous person, and honestly, my husband has always been rock solid. The kind of guy who doesn't play games or entertain what-ifs. He's never given me a reason to worry. That's probably why I didn't say anything when Lena started texting more frequently a few months ago. Her dad had just been diagnosed with a rare cancer. It was advanced, and her local doctors weren't giving her much hope. She panicked. My husband, being who he is, immediately stepped in to help however he could. He reviewed her dad's labs, talked to colleagues, and even arranged a virtual consult with an oncologist up here in the Northeast. He was amazing, and I was proud of him. But the late-night messages started becoming more than medical. She'd send photos of her crying, updates about how scared she was, poems about hope. Once she even sent a selfie with the caption, "Haven't slept in days. Don't know how I'd get through this without you." I asked him about it. "She's scared," he said. "She doesn't have a support system. Her husband is barely present. I just want to make sure her dad gets the best care possible." I nodded. Because again, what was I supposed to say? Stop helping a dying man because I don't like the tone of a text message? But a voice in my head was getting louder. The voice that said, "This is crossing a line." Still, I said nothing. I didn't want to be the jealous wife who makes a scene about a woman going through trauma. And besides, deep down, I was scared of something else. When I was 22, I had cancer. Stage 2. Aggressive. It came out of nowhere and gutted my early adulthood. I lost my hair, my strength, my sense of safety. And while I was in the hospital, my then-boyfriend cheated on me with my best friend. They said it was just a moment of weakness, that they leaned on each other through the stress, that they didn't mean for it to happen. They tried to gaslight me into believing it was my fault, that I'd been distant, that I was emotionally unavailable, while I was literally fighting for my life. I don't think I've ever really healed from that. I trust my husband completely, but some part of me always wonders, what if someone else sees him as a lifeline during their chaos? What if he feels responsible for fixing someone and it pulls him away from me? So yeah, when Lena's text started getting weird, I felt it in my bones. But I also felt paralyzed, because I didn't want to be the reason someone going through hell lost access to a good doctor or a kind friend. I told myself, don't make it about you. But then she did make it about me. Because in her drunk, vulnerable, manipulative messages, she didn't just confess her feelings to my husband, she begged him not to tell me. She knew what she was doing. And that was the clearest boundary-crossing moment of all. When my husband blocked her and stepped away, I was relieved. But I also felt guilty. Guilty that she was hurting. Guilty that her dad might now be getting less support. Guilty that I was part of a decision that ended a lifelong friendship. That guilt didn't last long. Because 2 days after he cut contact, his mother called. And she was livid. She said Lena was going through so much and that my husband had abandoned her in her hour of need. That real Christians don't turn their backs on family. I sat there on the couch, listening on speakerphone, trying not to let my jaw hit the floor. Then she turned on me. "She changed you," she said to my husband. "Before her, you had empathy. Now you just cut people off like they're disposable. I don't know what kind of woman encourages that kind of cruelty." I couldn't stay quiet. I didn't encourage anything. Third, she confessed her love to a married man and asked him to keep it a secret from his wife. That's not just a boundary issue, it's manipulative and inappropriate. "She didn't mean it," his mother snapped. "She was drinking, she's stressed. Drunk or not, she knew exactly what she was doing when she asked him to lie to me." His mom got quiet, then said, "You've always had a way of driving wedges in this family, just like last time." And there it was. We'd gone low contact with her once before, years ago, after she showed up to our apartment unannounced, accused me of domesticating her son, and called me a selfish feminist. She never apologized. We let her back in because she promised to behave. Apparently, she'd just been biding her time. This time, though, my husband didn't hold back. "You don't get to talk to her like that," he said. "And you don't get to insert yourself into something that has nothing to do with you." She demanded to speak to him privately, said this was a family issue. He said, "My wife is my family," and hung up. Update 2. You'd think that would have been the end of it. It wasn't. After the call, I was shaking. Not out of fear, out of rage. It wasn't even about Lena anymore. It was about the way his mother made it crystal clear. No matter how much time passed, she would never see me as real family. Not unless I played the part she wanted. A compliant, silent, submissive Christian wife who stayed in her lane and never disrupted the narrative she built around her son. Instead, I had boundaries. And that made me the villain. The next few days were tense. My phone buzzed with unknown calls I didn't answer. A cousin of his messaged me on Instagram with a passive-aggressive, "Just praying you find peace in your heart and don't destroy good relationships over misunderstandings." I didn't reply. The worst part was that Lena didn't go away quietly either. She posted vague quotes on Facebook. Stuff like, "God removes people from your life when he hears conversations you didn't." And, "When someone is threatened by your light, they'll try to dim it any way they can. Let them go." Each one was accompanied by a filtered selfie and heart react emojis from mutual friends who had no idea what had happened. Or maybe they did, but didn't care. Then came the kicker. One of our friends, someone I had dinner with more than once, sent my husband a screenshot of a post Lena shared in a private support group. It wasn't a full tell-all, but it was enough. She implied she was emotionally abused, spiritually manipulated, and rejected by someone who promised to be there during the darkest time of my life. She ended it with, "I guess I was only worthy when I needed medical help, not when I needed love." I nearly threw my phone. "She's trying to rewrite the story," I said to my husband. "She's making herself the victim." "She always has been," he replied. "Even when we were kids, she'd cry to get out of trouble, and my mom would give her a cookie." He tried to laugh, but it didn't land, because even though we were on the same side, I could feel the weight pressing down on both of us. He was tired, I was raw, and the space between us was starting to fill with the kind of silence that wasn't peaceful. It was loaded. I needed to talk. He needed to decompress. We weren't fighting exactly, but something was off. And then, out of nowhere, he said, "Do you think I did the right thing?" It took me a second to realize he was talking about cutting Lena off. I blinked. "Of course I do. Why would you ask that?" He rubbed his face. "Because now my mom hates you more than ever. My phone's full of guilt messages. I'm being told I turned my back on a lifelong friend during a crisis." I swallowed hard. "So, what are you saying?" "I'm saying," he sighed, "I didn't expect to lose so many people over doing what felt like the right thing." That hit me harder than I thought it would. Not because I didn't understand where he was coming from, but because, for a brief moment, it sounded like he was weighing me against them. Like doing the right thing might not have been worth it. I got quiet. He noticed. "I'm not blaming you," he added quickly. This is harder than I thought." That night, I lay in bed thinking about the past. About the way people see strong boundaries as threats. How my ex used to accuse me of being cold when I asked for space. How my former best friend turned her betrayal into a sob story about her confusion and her pain while I was literally battling cancer. And now Lena was doing it too. I wondered how many women had been burned at the stake for saying, "I'm not comfortable with this." The next morning his mom called again. He put it on speaker before I could even ask. She started with, "I want to have a private conversation with you." He replied calmly, "No, if it concerns my marriage, my wife will be part of it." She scoffed. "This is a matter between family. She is my family." That set her off like a firework. "You're letting her control you. You've become cold, isolated, cruel. She's brainwashed you into cutting off people who love you. That's abuse, and you don't even see it." I felt my chest tighten. My anxiety buzzed in my ears. I had to leave the room. 5 minutes later, he found me in our bedroom, curled into the comforter trying not to spiral. "She called you controlling," he said quietly. "Said you're turning me against everyone." "And what did you say?" I told her I'm disappointed in her. That she hasn't learned a single thing about boundaries or respect, and that I won't be speaking to her for a while. My eyes welled up. "She's not allowed to contact you either," he added. "I told her to leave you alone." "I already have her silenced," I said. "She doesn't exist on my phone anymore." He sat next to me and took my hand. "I'm sorry. You didn't do anything wrong. I know, I just hate that it came to this." I nodded. "Me too." That evening, I found out from a mutual acquaintance that his mother had been visiting Lena regularly, bringing meals, watching her kids, even helping coordinate treatment plans for her dad, since my husband was no longer involved. They'd built their own little support system, one that conveniently didn't include me. one that still saw me as the wedge. Update 3. I wish I could say that after all of that, things calmed down. They didn't. The thing about toxic dynamics is that when you refuse to play your role anymore, the whole system starts glitching. My role was quietly supportive. The peacekeeper. The reasonable one. The woman who smiled politely through condescension and minimized her own discomfort to avoid conflict. When I stopped playing that part, people didn't just get upset, they panicked. About a week after the last phone call, we got an invitation to a casual dinner at his cousin's house. No occasion, no agenda, just family time. My husband was suspicious immediately. I wasn't. I was naive. We showed up with a bottle of wine, wearing matching flannel like idiots, and as soon as we stepped into the dining room, I knew. It was an ambush. His mother was already there. So was another aunt I hadn't spoken to in a year. And seated on the far side of the room, sipping from a stemless glass of white wine like nothing had happened, was Lena. She smiled when she saw us, not sheepishly, not apologetically, like a cat stretching in a sunbeam. I froze. My husband's face went blank. "Hi," Lena said, as if we'd bumped into each other at Target. "You look great." I didn't respond. His cousin came over quickly and whispered, "I didn't know she'd be here, I swear." But the damage was done. We sat through 20 minutes of stiff small talk and forced laughter. His mom tried to keep things light, talking about summer plans, how the garden was coming along, how she'd just happened to bump into Lena the other day. No one addressed the elephant in the room. Finally, my husband stood up. "We're leaving." His mother blinked. "But we just got the food out." "We didn't agree to sit down and pretend everything's okay," he said, calm but firm. "You blindsided us, you disrespected my wife, and you keep pushing this idea that we'll all go back to normal if you just ignore the problem long enough." He turned to his cousin. "I believe you didn't know, but we can't stay." Then Lena said something that still echoes in my head. "She's changed you." I turned slowly and looked at her. "No," I said. "He changed himself. The second you made it clear you didn't respect our marriage." She scoffed, looking at his mom like I was the one embarrassing them. That was the moment I realized I was done apologizing for being the one who said enough. We left. In the car, we were quiet at first. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it felt like the only thing I could do without screaming. "That was insane," I said. He nodded. "I don't know what they expected." "They expected me to fold," I said. "They always do." And I realized I almost had. So many times. I'd softened my boundaries out of guilt, out of fear, out of that deep old ache to be liked, understood, accepted. But you can't heal inside the same system that keeps wounding you. And if you have to burn your own peace to keep other people warm, that's not love. It's codependency. My husband reached for my hand. "I'm proud of you," he said. For the first time, I believed him. Update 4. It's been 3 months since that dinner ambush, and I haven't seen or spoken to Lena or my mother-in-law since. They've gone quiet, not in a peaceful way, more like the kind of silence that's filled with petty subtweets, prayer circle gossip, and selective retellings of what really happened. Apparently, I'm now the wife who cut her husband off from everyone he ever cared about. A woman so insecure she couldn't handle a dying woman asking for comfort. One relative even said I was jealous of the love they had before you came along. Let that one sit for a second. But here's what they'll never understand. It wasn't about jealousy. It was about respect. It was about a grown woman crossing a boundary, one that was clearly marked, and then expecting everyone else to excuse it because she was hurting. I can have empathy for someone and still not allow them to wreck my life in the process. As for my husband, he's still grieving the loss of those connections in his own quiet way. He misses certain people. He misses the idea of what his family used to be. But he doesn't miss the manipulation. He doesn't miss the guilt. And he's never once made me feel like I was the one who tore it all down. We've had a lot of long talks, some in the middle of the night, some in therapy. He told me he never realized how much pressure he felt to be everyone's savior until the moment he finally said no, and watched people lose their minds over it. He said he learned something he wished he'd known earlier. People who truly love you don't punish you for having boundaries. I've learned things too. I've learned that I'm not responsible for managing other people's emotions. That being kind doesn't mean being passive. That protecting your peace doesn't make you a narcissist. It makes you someone who's finally done being everyone else's emotional landfill. I used to feel guilty about how everything unfolded. I don't anymore. Because here's the truth. I'm not the villain. I'm the main character who stopped editing herself to make other people comfortable. And in doing that, I gained something better than approval. I gained clarity. The clarity that my marriage is strong, even when surrounded by chaos. That my partner sees me, believes me, backs me. That my worth was never dependent on how many people called me gracious, while quietly disrespecting me. We're doing better now. Healthier, calmer, more honest. No more middle-of-the-night texts from women grieving themselves into fantasies. No more walking on eggshells around people who smile while they twist the knife. Just us. Healing, together. So to anyone reading this who's feeling like you're the bad guy for drawing a line, you're not. You're just the first one brave enough to stop pretending things are okay when they aren't. That doesn't make you cruel, it makes you free. Edit. Wow. Thank you all for the kindness, messages, and even the tough love. If you're wondering, yes, we're still in therapy. Yes, his mother has attempted contact, emails mostly. And no, we haven't responded. I don't know if there'll be a reunion. But for now, we're choosing peace. And that's more than enough. Update 5. Hi everyone. I wasn't planning on updating, but I've had a few messages asking how things have been since we set those boundaries with Lena and my MIL. And honestly, I've had some perspective shifts I wanted to share. It's been a strange few months. Quiet in some ways, tense in others. Lena is completely out of our lives. My husband hasn't heard from her, and I haven't checked her socials in weeks. Last I heard, through a very gossipy mutual, she's still receiving support from my MIL. They've apparently grown even closer. My MIL's been helping with her kids and occasionally attending doctor appointments with Lena's mom. So yeah, that friendship is still very much alive. My MIL, on the other hand, has made several attempts to reach out. Some polite, just wanted to check in. Some not so much. Your wife poisoned your heart against your family. She's emailed, called from different numbers, even sent a handwritten note around Easter with a Bible verse underlined 3 times. But the tone always circles back to the same thing, that I'm the root of the conflict. We've maintained no contact. My husband told her that until she acknowledges what happened and stops trying to rewrite the story, she isn't welcome back into our lives. And he meant it. Watching him reinforce that boundary has been one of the most healing parts of this entire mess. I know some people struggle to stand up to their parents, and I don't take for granted how rare it is to have a partner who gets it. He still has moments of grief, mostly over the loss of what he hoped his family could be. But we've had so many honest, late-night conversations. He told me he used to feel responsible for everyone's emotional state, like he had to be the fixer, or else he was failing. And now, he's learning to let go. As for me, I'm still working through the guilt. It sneaks in sometimes, usually late at night, usually after I see something online about caregiving or loss. I think about Lena's dad and wonder if we made things harder for their family. But then I remind myself, her dad didn't need an affair fantasy. He needed a doctor. She turned a crisis into an opportunity to create emotional chaos. That wasn't on me. I'm still in therapy, still learning that boundaries aren't punishments, they're protection. And that protecting my peace doesn't mean I lack compassion, it means I have self-respect. So no dramatic reunions, no redemption arcs, just quiet, solid love in our home, just healing. Day by day. And that's enough. Thank you again to everyone who reminded me I wasn't overreacting. Sometimes you just need strangers on the internet to say, hey, no, you're not crazy. Turns out, I wasn't.